Well, black people are Native Americans. We've had, a lot of proof that, you know, some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty, and you've cut off his heir. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people, but that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African, LeVar Burton, had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
That was the dramatization. How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank really is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have the largest...
He didn't exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can want Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Happy Educational Friday. I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all are ready for the weekend. I hope everything is going good for y'all. I hope y'all grounding, meditating, and praying and doing your genealogy. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Educational Friday. We do this every Friday, or at least every Friday I'm not running out of town, okay? But the Fridays I'm home, we do Educational Friday. It's just a way for us to unlearn and relearn what we were lied to about in history, okay? And this week, sorry, I was eating some Mike and Ike's. But this week, we're going to discuss Carter G. Woodson. And for those in the bike who don't know who Carter G. Woodson is, I'm pretty sure if you're from a Black American town, y'all had a school named Carter G. Woodson. I mean, certain people got the schools everywhere. So if you don't know who Carter G. Woodson was, he is a Black American, using the term loosely, but he's a Black American man who was also a Boule person, one of the original Boules, who introduced African American studies to us. And also he introduced Black History Week, which then turned into Black History Month. Basically, Carter G. Woodson is kind of like the predecessor, if y'all were here last week, We spoke about W.E.B. Du Bois, mostly about Marcus Garvey, but about W.E.B. Du Bois. We spoke about them being the, at least W.E.B. Du Bois is the father of Pan-African studies, but W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey were both two key figureheads in getting us to believe that we're African. Yeah, it's crazy. They the two figureheads, but right after them came Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson was the one who really hammered it in. He wrote a book called The Miseducation of the Negro, and he also introduced, like I said, Negro Week or African American Week, Black History Week, and then he also introduced, like I said, The Miseducation of the Negro. And we're going to get into why this is important. What we're also going to get into is his association with the Boule and the Divine Nine. Now, I know I say a lot of stuff about the D9 people, and I know people that are in the D9 be like, well, I've never heard of this. I've never heard of this. The point of it all is they're not going to tell everybody all the secrets. If they did, then it would be easier for the secrets to get out. Not only that, they're not going to sacrifice telling everybody the secret when it could backfire on them. So even if you're in these organizations, a lot of times, very few of them really know what they're doing and why they are there. Remember, the pyramid schemes only work if the people at the top understand, not the people at the bottom. And the Divine Nine organization is one big pyramid scheme that really came off of the backs of the Boule. And Carter G. Woodson is a member, or was a member, of both the Divine Nine and the Boule. And we're going to talk about his role and why we over here windmilling against the Africans today. He is also another person that have us in the situation we're in today. So we're going to get into Carter G. Woodson. Y'all get the likes up on the video. I would like to remind y'all, like I said, if it were not for these Boule/Freemasons, we wouldn't be here. Yes, the white man is evil. Yes, he's a blue-eyed devil. I'm here for all of that. But at the end of the day, they can't do what they're doing unless the people like us that look like us assist them. They can't do this by themselves. They have to find ways in. And, when I was looking up information on Carter G. Woodson, I was thinking about it. I said, what if the Moors blended in with Black America, which we weren't called that then, but what if they blended in with us so much so, and then you got to also look at it, the word Moor. People are calling all melanated people Moors. That's a whole nother way to miseducate us and confuse us. But I was thinking, what if the Moors hid in plain sight with us, which I know they did, and then also the ones of us who knew who they were, what if they were all in on it together? That's just something that came up when I was going through this study, because all of these quote unquote so-called Black Americans, none of them were African, yet and still they're naming churches after African studies. They're naming schools and all kinds of things after all of this Africa. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's something that we need to discuss, because I'm starting to wonder about first of all, we already know about the invasion of the biracial. Now, I'm not saying biracials are evil people. What I'm saying is they were used as a tool to screw us over in the 1800s, especially the mid to late 1800s, and especially the 1900s. Remember, they dropped the rule, the one drop rule. They gave us the one drop rule so we wouldn't question these biracials. But the thing about it is these biracials were working against us. They just looked like us and made it seem like they were on our side, but they weren't. And I'm finding a lot of these Boule members are biracials. I don't know if Carter G is, but they biracials. They got a lot of really weird backgrounds. And we're going to get into a bunch of that today. So y'all come on in, get the likes up on the video, and let's jump off the porch with Carter G. I do have some video footage I want to share with the late, great brother Steve Coakley. Shout out to Steve Coakley. Now, he was a Pan-Africanist, which a lot of people in Black America was in the 90s. So we know that. That's when we all thought we was African, calling ourselves African American, wearing dashikis and all of that. So I don't charge that to these people's hearts in the 90s, because they're byproducts of all of this. They are the result of the Carter G. Woodsons and of the Marcus Garveys and the W.E.B. Du Bois. They are the results of that. So I can't 100% fault them for being Pan-Africanists, especially during a time when it wasn't no other choice. But I can say we can be able to sift through what they're saying and understand where we need to take the meat and spit out the bone. Does that make sense? Yeah, it was definitely a trend, lady season. To be African, I remember I went to the beauty store and got me buku African earrings. Girl, what is you saying? It was a huge trend. We was all running around here saying we was African. Looking crazy. Girl, we looked at a mess running around here talking about we African. All for the Africans to get over here and give us their arse to kiss. But anyway, we're going to get into that. So let's jump off the porch with Carter G. Woodson. Y'all get the likes up on the video, please, and thank you. Now, I want to start off. Let's start off in the way I found this crap. So, okay, Carter G. Woodson, who was he? A weird-looking ass little boy, okay? That's who he was. Class of 1912. I want to say, yeah, he went to Harvard, okay? It's Carter G. Woodson, known as the father of Black history, was the second Black person to earn a PhD from Harvard University. He created Negro History Week, the forerunner to Black History Month, and established the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Remember, prior to Carter G. Woodson, especially in education, we ain't know nothing about no Africa. Oh, and by the way, this is the very, very, very early onset of education. Most of us ain't at no schools. You want to know how they tricked us into going into high schools and colleges and getting education? They started making the people come out of schools be middle class, right? But the people who were going in were already middle class. But basically, they used them as walking advertisement boards. Hey, if you want to continue working out in the fields, that's cool. But if you want a kind of soft life where you ain't got to be outside, you see what I'm saying? Come on over to college. You'll come out, you'll have a suit and tie, and you'll work a good job. And it worked. For a lot of Black Americans, it worked. A lot of them came out of the fields and decided they wanted to go to school. And as we know, if you fast forward, a lot of us went into schools again in the late 80s and the early 90s. What was happening, ladies and gentlemen? What was happening that put us into higher learning, meaning college, in the late 80s, especially in the early 90s? Bill Cosby in A Different World. I'm one of those people who never cared about college until I watched A Different World. Okay? The Cosby Show didn't even sell me on college, but A Different World did. I didn't care nothing. All of my dreams deferred when I watched A Different World. Remember, Bill Cosby is also a D9 member, which would make sense why that push would be so heavy in the 90s and for us to go running into these people colleges in droves. They made it trendy. They made it dope. I wanted to be in a fraternity or sorority. Sorry, just because they did it on the show. Like school days too. Oh yes. See that let me back it up. School days was the first thing to make me say, I gotta go to college. School Days. When I saw the movie School Days, I had to feel that freedom and I had to go to college. I wanted to join one of them fraternities and sororities or whatever so I could be the bad bitch. In my mind, right? That's what I thought. And then fast forward, here come the Cosby Show and they break off into The Different World, which is solely based around college. And how many of us went running into the schools? Damn near all of us. We all went to college after seeing that. Then you got to add on top of that the other 90s sitcoms where all of the people that was doing well were college educated. You got to Martin. Think about Martin. Martin worked at WZUP, the radio station, which was a regular good job, but still a regular job. But Pam and Gina went to college and they worked at the big Fortune 500 company as marketing advisors or whatever they was. It was always subconsciously implanted in us to go to college. But this didn't just start with TV and advertisement. It started with these guys, with the Carter G. Woodsons, the W.E.B. Du Bois, the Marcus Garveys of the world. It started with them. Well, not necessarily Marcus Garvey, but definitely W.E.B. Du Bois, Carter G. Woodson, and the rest of the boule. Oh yeah, Living Single too. Living Single. Think about it. Khadijah had the degree in journalism and she owned Flavor magazine. You see what I'm saying? What's the girl name? The dark skin one with the braids. She was an alderman and an attorney because she went to college. You see what I'm saying? Regine, I think she did something out of college. All of them girls went to college, damn near. Yup, and they always wore HBCU gear. You know who else too? Bill Cosby. Damn near every single episode of the Cosby Show, he had on an HBCU sweater. Girlfriends too. Yup, Girlfriends too. Girlfriends was another show. All four of them helpers was successful because they were college graduates. It was that was the witchcraft to make you believe that in order to be successful, you got to go to college. And not only that, they made it look fun AF. So we all ran up in there. But again, these people are the progenitors of that. So let's get into who he is and what he did. Okay. He's got a PhD, and his area of impact is education history, African and African American studies. He had his HBCU affiliation was at Howard, West Virginia State, and West Virginia State University. Let me say this as well. I asked myself, what would make Carter G. Woodson introduce African studies to a bunch of people who don't think that they're African? But then I think about his affiliation to the Boule. I think about his affiliation to the Divine Nine, and I know that those are secret organizations, secret societies that hold the secrets. They are the talented 10% that holds the line between us and the powers that be. This is why they do well and the mass majority of us do trash, because they get paid hella good money keeping us stupid and keeping us under their feet. Okay, so that's what I was thinking in my head. Like, why would he introduce that? And then I said, okay, his alliance to the Divine Nine. And you know what else I noticed as well? When it comes down to this divine alliance to the Divine Nine, think about it in 2026. Most of your D9 members are doctors. We've talked about this. Lawyers, political. They're all into politics. Most of your Divine Nine people are in positions of power, not because they're great and not solely because they're in the Divine Nine. The reason why these people get these positions is because their job is to hold the line, meaning keep you over there and keep them and them crackers over here. Does that make sense? You notice even in the medical industry and in the law industry with lawyers and stuff, I noticed that it's hard for people to get into these industries unless they are in these D9 organizations. This is why a lot of these people pledge in college, because they understand if I want to get a job after this, I need to join this organization. And again, it's not about you just being akin to them. It's about you being trained to shut up and do what we tell you to do. This is why these people hold these positions in our areas and in our community, because they are trained to shut up, keep you dumb, keep you stupid. Okay. Now, and you know what's crazy? Somebody said my grandfather was a Mason. I have his ring. My great grandmother and a few of my family is still Masons. We got Masons all over our family. And, you know, I'm thinking about that too. I'm starting to think, well, I know it did. I know that it got infiltrated, but I don't even want to get into it right now. But anyway, back to Carter G. Woodson. So Carter G. Woodson, like I said, introduces this African-American studies to us. Let's get into it. Carter G. Woodson, born on December 19th, 1875, to formerly enslaved parents in New Canton, Virginia. As a young man, Woodson worked as a farm laborer and coal miner in Huntington, West Virginia, to contribute to his family's finances while attending the all-black Douglas High School. He then worked as a grad school teacher and principal in West Virginia before matriculating at Berea College in Kentucky, where he earned a 2-year BL degree in 1903 after years of balancing school with work as a high school teacher and principal. So he jumped out the window getting all kinds of jobs. After graduating, he traveled to the Philippines, where he spent several years as a school supervisor working in the U.S. War Department. I think they probably sent them overseas to get that experience. You know what I'm saying? The Crisis, the national magazine of the NAACP, named Woodson one of its men of the month. Oh Lord, if he get named man of the month by the NAACP, you already know what time it is. It said they named him men of the month in July 1912 alongside George E. Haynes of Columbia University, the only other black person to complete a doctorate that year. Now let me say this too. Like I said, during this time when Carter G. Woodson and all these people is coming up out of college or going to college, we not going in there. That's why he the only one in his family. But I think this was the precursor to where we got to in the 90s with Bill Cosby and them. They had to start somewhere. So they needed us in their institution. So they needed a few of us to go in first. Then they're going to be the example so that more can follow and so on and so forth. All right. It says Woodson had a cosmopolitan spirit. He spoke French and Spanish and traveled to several countries on 3 continents, including France, where he studied the Sorbonne in Paris. It says this worldview of love for languages led him to complete both a BA and MA degree in history at the University of Chicago. Woodson then decided to further his graduate education in history and enrolled in Harvard University in 1908. Despite the casual racism he faced from faculty, many of whom believed, as his advisor Albert Bushnell Hart wrote in 1910, that race measures by race, it says the Negro was inferior and consistently minimized by the role of Black Americans in U.S. history. Woodson successfully completed his PhD in 1912. His dissertation, The Disruption of Virginia, examines the causes of the separation of West Virginia from the state of Virginia during the Civil War, countering the popular belief that West Virginia broke away from the Confederacy due to opposition to slavery and instead identifying as the cause of economic class differences between the aristocracy and of the East and the dissenters on the state's western front. When he graduated in 1912, Woodson became only the second Black person other than W.E.B. Webb. Here come W.E.B. Du Bois. He's the second Black person other than W.E.B. Du Bois who had been the first to earn a PhD from Harvard University, okay? Now, you know, Howard, I've always said that Howard was the Black Harvard. Howard is kind of, and I hate to say that to make Harvard seem like it's the standard, but I do know, no shade, but the people I've seen and met from Howard, they really be acting like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it will make sense that he went to Harvard, you know what I'm saying? Even though he probably should have been at Howard, where all of these doggone fraternities and stuff popped up. Well, not all, but most of them. You see what I'm saying? But he was at Harvard. That's where he graduated. But they needed that to add to his credentials. Now, the father of Black history. Just a few years after graduating from Harvard, he published The Education of the Negro prior to 1861 in 1919. And after being banned from attending conferences of the almost exclusively white scholarly association, the American Historical Association, founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, known as the Association for a Study of African American Life and History, or ASALH. While building a reputation as a leading scholar of Black history, he maintained his commitment to educating Black youth. He served as the principal of Armstrong Manual Training School in Washington, D.C. in 1918, as well as the Dean of School of Liberal Arts at Howard University in 1919 and 1920. And West Virginia Collegiate Institute, 1920 to 1922, now West Virginia State University, both historical Black schools. He retired from teaching in 1922 to focus on the development of ASNLH. Determined to make Black history available to the masses, Woodson established Negro History Week in 1926. So he's got Negro History Week in 1926. How long is this video? Is this a video?
All American News brings you our people's contribution to America and freedom.
emphasize the achievements of persons of African blood. What has the Negro to celebrate? The great scholars of our day are now saying that persons of African blood gave the world the first idea of the unity of God. In our own country, we find that the Negro, in spite of his enslavement, achieved likewise. Negroes felled the trees, drained the swamps, cultivated the soil, produced the staple upon which the wealth of our Southland has been based. And then, moreover, the Negroes came to the defense of this country. They were brave soldiers during the colonial period, the American Revolution, the Second War with England.
Okay, so that's what we got. So that's him talking about the Negro, and I guess what he's kind of talking about. I saw him interweave Africa into Negroes and slavery and all of this stuff. Now, and I can imagine being a Black American during that time. Like, what is this nigga talking about? But it wouldn't make sense for them because it wasn't for them. It was for the people who would come later and come back and research him. Remember, I told y'all how this enemy works. The things that they do is not for today, it's for tomorrow. The things that they put out today is not for you to know about today. It's for somebody to catch it way later on in the future and then have to come back and look at this to reference. It says, alongside his essays and publication, like The History of the Negro Church, 1921, Negro Makers of History, 1928, and African Heroes and Heroines in 1939, he also created the Negro History Bulletin, still published today as the Black History Bulletin for educators and students to use in their history curricula. The popularity of Negro History Week eventually led to the establishment of the National Black History Month. So mind you, Carter G. Woodson jumping off the porch. He's jumping out here. He's got books. He's got all kind of curriculum. He's written all these books or whatever. Let me scroll down. He's written books. He's done a lot of things. He's been a lot of places. He speaks a lot of different languages. And his job is to introduce us to African studies. We don't know nothing about this. Only thing we hearing about it is this crazy man on TV. If you was watching TV during that time, or if you heard him on the radio, no, we don't know what this is, but we know that this is a quote unquote educated Black man, and he's supposed to teach us. And that's another thing too. The educated people, college has made another fake thing that they got us believing. They got us believing that people who go to college are smarter than us. And because of that, even in the past, we typically fall back and allow our college people to be the mouthpiece for us. That's why they are politicians. That's why they are always in positions of power. But what we're learning in 2026 is that just because you go to college does not mean you're educated. As a matter of fact, most college people are the least educated. They're very educated on whatever they study, but when it comes to common sense in life, they are the least educated. No shade. I got 2 degrees, so I'm talking about me too. You see what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, because we looked at them as if they were the best of our community. When you hear a Carter G. Woodson coming out to say something, you're more inclined to listen because in your mind, this is the best of the best. This is the cream of the crop, which was all cap. You know what I'm saying? It was all a whole bunch of cap. Hold on. Come over here to Wiki. Let them lie to us right quick. It says Carter G. Woodson, born December 19, 1875, died April 3rd, 1950, was an American historian, author, and journalist, and the founder of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. That's what we just talked about. He was one of the first scholars to study the history of Black African diasporas in the United States. So again, if we were African, why would Carter G. Woodson be one of the first to study it? Wouldn't that be something folklore told in the household? Oh, I remember your grandma was a slave and she told me stories about when she came off the boat. That would be folklore. We wouldn't have to learn that through an institution. But when it's headed by some people that don't have your best interest at heart, this is why you learn it here. A founder of the Journal of the Negro History in 1916, Woodson has been called the father of Black history. In February 1926, he launched the celebration of Negro History Week, the precursor of Black History Month. Woodson was an important figure to the movement of the Afrocentrism due to his perspective of placing people of sub-Saharan African descent at the center of the study of history and the human experience. Now pause. When he's introducing us to Africa, he's also opening the door for all other Africans to say that they are us. This is all a part of the plot, even back then. Remember, the only reason why he coming to us telling us we African is to mentally take us off of our land. He can't physically get us to go. That's why they had Marcus Garvey, and that didn't work. So the other way was, okay, let's mentally take them off the land. So this is why a Carter G. Woodson through the education system is giving you African studies. So mentally you can look over there for home instead of under your feet. Okay. It goes on to say, born in Virginia, the son of former slaves. We already read that. Hold on. I think it was something else on this page I wanted to show y'all. Carter G. Woodson was born in New Canton, Virginia on December 19, 1875, the son of former slaves Ann Elza Riddle and James Henry Woodson. Although his father was illiterate, Carter's mother Anna had been taught to read by her mistress. His father James, during the Civil War, had helped Union soldiers near Richmond and escaping from his owner by leading them to the Confederate supply stations and warehouse to raid Army supplies. Therefore, and until the war ended, James had scouted for the Union Army. That's his daddy. In 1867, Anna and James married and later moved to West Virginia after buying a small farm. The Woodson family was extremely poor but proud. Both Woodson's parents told him that it was the happiest day of their lives when they became free. Cap. His sister was the poet, teacher, and activist Bessie Woodson Yancey. Woodson was often unable to attend primary school regularly so as to help out on the farm. Though a mixture of self-instruction and 4 months of instruction from his 2 uncles, brothers of his mother's, were also taught to read, Woodson was able to master school subjects. So they saying because the sister wasn't able to go to school full time, but she was still able to go and become an activist, a poet, and a teacher. And then he allegedly was able to learn the little he knew from his uncles. Sure. I don't believe nothing about this backstory. I ain't even gonna hold you. I don't believe nothing about this backstory. Let's get into his career. Convinced that the role of his own people in American history and the history of others' cultures was being ignored and misrepresented among scholars, Woodson realized the need for research into the neglected past of African Americans. We didn't call ourselves African Americans. So I don't know where they coming from where he needed to do this, because none of that probably happened. This is what they wrote up, though. Along with William D. Hartgrove, George Cleveland Hall, Alexander L. Jackson, and James E. Stamps, he founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History on September 9, 1915 in Chicago. Woodson's purpose was to treat the records scientifically and to publish the findings of the world in order to avoid the awful fate of becoming a negligible factor in the thought of the world. His stays at the Wabash Avenue YMCA in Chicago and in the surrounding Bronzeville neighborhood, including 1915's Lincoln Jubilee, inspired him to create the ASLNH. It says another inspiration was John Wesley Cromwell's 1914 book, The Negro in American History, Men and Women Eminent in the Evolution of the American African Descent. Ooh. The Negro in American History, Men and Women Eminent in the Evolution of the American of African Descent. That sounds like some Dr. Umar shit. Matter of fact, can I click on this? No. I need to see what this is about. Hold on. The Negro. Oh, I don't need all that. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. I gotta look. Because that sounds like some bullshit right there. Because what you mean? A whole bunch of miseducation. And it's crazy because he wrote a book about the education or miseducation of Negroes. The Negro in American History, Men and Women Eminent of Evolution, American of African Descent, English edition by John Wesley Cromwell, is a sweeping, deeply researched narrative that traces the presence, struggle, and achievement of Americans of African descent across the broad arc of the United States history? Nigga, what? What does that even mean? Deeply researched narrative that traces the presence, struggle, and achievements of Americans of African descent. That sounds like when Umo be calling us African. No, what he call us? American Africans. That's a bunch of bullshit. But back to it. It says, Woodson believed that education and increasing social and professional contacts among black and white people, of course, he had a W.E.B. Du Bois mindset. Let's be cool with the whites. Contacts amongst black and white people could reduce racism. And he promoted the organized study of African American history partly for that purpose. He would later promote the first Negro History Week in D.C. in 1926, forerunner of Black History Month. The association ran conferences, published the Journal of Negro History, and particularly targeted those responsible for the education of black children. You get that part? Particularly targeted those responsible for the education of black children, because that was his job. Carter G. Woodson's job is to what's the word I want to say? His job is to re-image your thoughts and what you know and believe about yourself. This is why his job, this is why he started off in school. He got all these quote unquote degrees, but his real job was to implement this Africa shit in our education system. But they also needed us to get in the education system as well, okay? Hold on, before I get to this video, I think it was something else. I think, let's go over here. Woodson in Washington. In the early 20th century, Washington, D.C. was home to many cultural institutions by and for African Americans, which supported Woodson as he developed his own organizations. He was involved in the culture and activism of the city, participating in anti-lynching protests and marching for civil rights. That's another thing they do. They love getting in the struggle to make you think they're on your side, but they not. On July 20th, 1919, during the Red Summer, a period of intense racial violence against quote-unquote African Americans, as Woodson walked home along Pennsylvania Avenue, he witnessed a white mob bind and murder a black man on the street. Woodson was able to avoid the mob, but he felt he narrowly avoided his death. In response to this spike in violence, African American women and men fought back. They armed themselves to protect their neighborhoods and communities, proclaiming that there was a new Negro in the city, a movement that encouraged activists or active resistance to racial violence. Woodson's work as an educator and historian of Black history became essential in developing this movement. Now I want to go over here. Hold on. It's something else I want to show y'all before we get into these. Here you go. Is it this one? No. That's why I opened this. So let's get into his association with the Boule and Sigma Pi Phi. So we all know the Divine Nine organization, if y'all are new, the Divine Nine organization is a branch from the Boule or Sigma Pi Phi. Now, Sigma Pi Phi is the very first secret society and or organization by Black Americans, okay? Remember, all of these things are happening in college. These aren't things happening in the backyard. These are all college-educated people. They decided to start their own Boule or their own secret society. Now, the history will tell you that the Black people started their own secret society because they couldn't be a part of the clears. They always start the story about us wanting to be with them, and that's not the truth. I believe, this is just me, My theory, and I believe that these people were going to create this organization regardless. They just needed to say that, to use that as the reason to why, but this was already done and put in the plan for them to create this organization so they can get us here in 2026. So the Divine Nine is a branch off of Sigma Pi Phi, who is the first Black secret society or organization, Divine Nine organization, in my opinion, that we know. Now, in this Divine Nine organization or Sigma Pi Phi, which is, we know the Boule, you got Carter G. Woodson, and you also got W.E.B. Du Bois. You got a few people, but these are all a bunch of mostly mulatto, aka biracial men who are college educated, right? And these are the people who are going to make up the Sigma Pi Phi, who would then branch off to it basically, you know what it kind of reminded me of? Sigma Pi Phi was the rock that hits your windshield. It starts off as a little nick. Then you wake up one morning and you go out there and it's a spider web across your whole goddamn your whole windshield. That's Sigma Pi Phi. Sigma Pi Phi is the little nick in the windshield when you was riding behind that truck. You ain't think it was that deep until you got up the next morning and now it done spread everywhere. That was the purpose. That's not only what it was, that was the purpose of them creating the organization. Okay. Now, we already know about Sigma Pi Phi. We're not going to get into that. We know they're an ancient Greek organization, and we also know that Greek history is named after us. We created Greek history. We created Greek society. That's all us. But I think they kind of made it all jacked up. Now, let's move on. Let's get into his association with the Divine Nine or the Boule. It says growth of the fraternity since its founding has been deliberately slow, as it was not conceived to be a large, indiscriminate body of men. Rather, the emphasis of membership has always been on quality, not quantity. Thus, members in this fraternity was in the beginning and continues to be extended selectively to outstanding men who are at minimum college graduates with recognized professional accomplishments and a record of demonstrable commitment to the enhancement of Black communities and their members. Cap. From an initial membership of 6 founders located in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Sigma Pi Phi fraternity has grown to presently include over 5,000 active members who are affiliated with 139 member Boule chapters located throughout the United States and the Bahamas. Oh, and the UK. There you go. Now, see, I'm learning something new. So they got the Boule people out there in the Bahamas and in the UK. Throughout its existence, its membership has included some of the most distinguished men in the world. They have included such scholars and academic, cultural, and civil rights leaders such as, obvious, Webb, W.E.B. Du Bois. Then we got Carter G. Woodson, founder of the ASALH. Charles R. Drew, physician who pioneered long-term storage methods from blood plasma. James Weldon Johnson, author of Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem. L. Douglas Wilder, the first elected Black governor of the U.S. state Virginia. And Martin Luther King, a.k.a. Mike Jr., founder of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and one of the most important 20th century civil rights leaders. Y'all see the connection? Oh, and I did find out that Carter G. Woodson was in the D9 as well. I want to say don't give me the line. I wanted to say he was an alpha, but don't give me the line. Hold on. Carter G. Woodson, Divine Nine. He is the father of Black history. Omega Psi Phi. He a Q. So he not only is he a Boule member, he's also a Q dog. Woo, woo, woo. Y'all know them niggas, them big old swole niggas, them big old purple punks. I'm just playing. Lord knows. But either way, they're all connected. And look at the people who's connected to this stuff. It's not just everyday random regular degular schmegular people. These are people who literally created systems that shaped who we are today. That goes to show you that it wasn't just about you being outstanding. You had to not only be able and willing to screw your own people, you probably had, that's probably the reason why you had to be a part of that organization, because you had to be able to have tough skin to be able to knowingly and willingly screw your own people. But you had to be a part of this organization so they can keep a hold on you, so they can keep a collar and a strain on you. Most people inside of Divine Nine organizations and secret societies are followers. I said it. And they do what they're told. This is why they have positions in power now, because they're puppets that do what they're told. Okay? No shade if you D9. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just giving y'all the history. Okay? So we know he was D9. Hold on. I think I got one more thing to show y'all before we get into some videos. Is this it? Maybe I don't have one more thing to show y'all. I thought I did. Well, all right. So we're going to jump right into the videos. So now that we know, what do we know about Carter G. Woodson so far? Number one, he is a quote unquote Black American from Virginia who found his way into education through parents who were poor, not slaves, but I think the mama was a slave. But either way, poor parents. He found his way through education, worked his way all the way up, went to Harvard, Howard, and all these different places. And he created the ASALH or whatever it is, which is another bullcrap thing for us to be African. He wrote all kinds of books. He did all of these things, but his biggest feat was introducing us to being African and also Black History Week or Negro History Week, which later turned into African or Black History Month. I'm sorry. Now I want to get into this video. Hold on, not this one. I want to get into this video where they kind of go over Carter G. Woodson. I don't think this one long, because then I want to show y'all what Steve Coakley had put up here. So yes, I think it's like 15 minutes. Let's get into this video about the history and story of Carter G. Woodson. Y'all get the likes up on the video, please. Let me make sure y'all can see it. Can y'all hear it and see it? Hold on. Fast forward.
Canton, Virginia. On December the 19th, 1875, Carter Godwood Woodson was born to former slaves James Henry and Ann Woodson in New Canton, Virginia. During this time, it was the end of Reconstruction with the Compromise of 1877. It was also the time when George Washington Williams' History of the Negro Race in America from 1619 to 1880 was published, which was in 1882. After leaving Buckingham County, West Virginia, W.E.B. Du Bois became the first African American to earn his PhD in history at Harvard in 1895. In 1903, Woodson graduates from Berea College and travels to the Philippines for the U.S. War Department. He then begins his travels to the continent of Africa, then later Asia, and he ended in Europe attending the Sorbonne in Paris, France, while attending the University of Chicago as a full-time graduate student. He was also a member of the Omega Psi Phi and the first Black professional fraternity, Sigma Pi Phi. He then receives his master's degree in history, Romance, Languages, and Literature from the University of Chicago in 1908. After leaving Chicago, he attends Harvard University as a PhD candidate in history, studying American and European history from 1908 to 1909. In 1915, he publishes The Education of the Negro prior to 1861, a history of the education of the colored people of the United States from the beginning of slavery to the Civil War. That same year in 1915, he and George Cleveland Hall, James E. Stamps, and Alexander L. Jackson co-found the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, the ASNLH. 1916, the first issue of the Journal of Negro History launches. Fast forward, in 1919 to 1920, he serves as a Dean of School of Liberal Arts at Howard University in Washington, D.C. He introduces the study of Black history and graduate studies in history at Howard. At this time during Howard, in 1920, he joins the Friends of Negro Freedom, serves as a Dean of West Virginia Collegiate Institute. He later employs J.E. Orms as a field agent to help increase the ASNLH membership, sell books and subscriptions to the Journal of Negro History, and organize Negro History Clubs. 1921, Dr. Woodson found the Association Publishers, Inc. He receives a grant from the Carnegie Institution and writes The Case of the Negro.
Why, now pause. Why would the Carnegie Institute send him a grant? I'll tell you why. Because he's completing and fulfilling what they need him to complete and fulfill. That's why they're sending him money. And listen, all of these people, Carter G. Woodson, Martin Luther King, they all came in with systems. They created whole new systems for us to adopt. And even with the African history or African American studies, that was a system that we went into and adopted. We literally went into this African American studies crap and started believing it. That's the part of the D9. This is why they choose D9 members and Boule members and Freemasons to complete this stuff. Because you got to be able to keep a secret and do whatever you need to do, knowing that it's wrong. But you still got to be able to do it. And again, the average person probably couldn't do it. These people were paid ops.
In 1922, Laura Sullivan Rockefeller Foundation awards Dr. Woodson $25,000. July 18th, Dr. Woodson purchases the 3-story Victorian-style brick row house.
It's so low. I hate when these videos be low like this, bruh. Damn, y'all don't be checking the sound before y'all put these bitches back on? It's so low. I can hardly hear. I don't know how to boost the sound. It's so low, I can hardly hear it. Let me play with it.
38 Ninth Street, Northwest, Washington, D.C.
As well as all the other fireplaces in the house when he moves in 1923. When we got here, this fireplace looked like that. The top image was falling apart because Dr. Woodson didn't really care about the maintenance of his own home. To him, this was a vessel that was to help the work spread. So he didn't really care if things falling apart around here. So we used the original bricks to reconstruct it to what it would have been like, say, in the 1923 when we moved in. And then we plastered over it the same way that he would have plastered over it. All right, so we can continue down this hallway.
And you said this is his distribution room right here. Yep. So this is the distribution room, and the other one was the book room.
Yep, so that's book storage, and shipping and packaging.
And of course, he sat up front up here at the typewriter and made sure everything was given out appropriately. Things were being done appropriately.
So this is where the secretary.
Nice.
I don't believe none of this. They staged this shit.
And of course, he said eventually you guys going to get your stuff, all his original property in eventually?
Well, not his original property, not all of it. This house will not serve the way that most historic houses are.
Okay.
So we're looking more towards audio-visual presentations and visual exhibits.
Yeah.
So we'll have some curated pieces to it. Since Dr. Woodson's things, we won't have his original furniture in the house, but this house will mostly be dealing with a different kind of experience.
Gotcha.
So we're going to head out up these stairs.
Okay.
So the house that they're in, for y'all who don't know, there's a building that's supposed to be Carter G. Woodson's old building. Matter of fact, one of the articles I pulled up said that they had closed it because they're remodeling or whatever. You see what I'm saying? See, here you go. Carter G. Woodson's home in NHS temporarily closed. It's supposed to be his home. The Carter G. Woodson's home National Historic Site is temporarily closed due to a full renovation project. Sure. We hope to reopen to the public in 2026. Please continue the website. So that's what they are looking at inside of this video. They looking at supposedly his home. I don't believe that though. I don't think that's real.
You're walking literally in the footsteps of Dr. Woodson himself,
Yeah.
as well as some of his most notable employees, including Stuart Neil Hurston, Langston Hughes, and Renzo Johnston Green. Excuse me.
I don't believe that. I ain't saying he ain't stay there.
The kitchen or the break room. Dr. Woodson doesn't really have a purpose for a kitchen because he takes all of his meals at the YWCA right here on the corner here. So what he will actually do is give this space for his staff to have like a break room, a place to relax. And at 12:15, he gathers them all together, or they gather themselves, and then he gives them their daily tasks. Now, when Dr. Woodson is giving them tasks, it's them with the air of someone who, wouldn't do that themselves. So Dr. Woodson would, for instance, scrub the floors on his hands and knees on his own. He would take the slow, is a part of the tour.
No, don't worry. Don't worry.
So, instance, Dr. Woodson poured every little last bit of himself into his organization, including his paycheck. Mm-hmm. He was the lowest paid member of his staff. He took a salary about $12 to $15 a week to survive off of. The rest is getting put directly back into his organization. So he took a vow of poverty to make sure that his organization could thrive. So when things are breaking down around the house, so because he couldn't afford or he didn't want to spend the money on someone to come and fix it for him, he would say if the doorknob was falling apart, he would go to the hardware store, find the cheapest option available, come home, fix it himself. So that's why now the doorknobs in the house actually match. All right. So we're going to head on down this hallway to Dr. Woodson's home office, or his office home as he affectionately called it. Alrighty, so he would have had a massive desk here with papers pile-tied, books open all over the place. One person once lamented they had never seen an editor with a messier desk. If you look here, you can see a representation of that. He's got a couple of different copies of the Negro History Bulletin. Some loose leaf papers hanging about. So that's just showing what his desk would have looked like on the regular. Now, if you look through this window here, you can see the historic Shaw neighborhood, which is the neighborhood that Dr. Woodson would have known when he was here. Because it's historic, developers, when they come into the area, they aren't allowed to touch these facades. So that way we know for a fact that this is what the neighborhood looked like in 1923 when Dr. Woodson was here.
Ma'am, where's your family from? I feel like Tyreek. She looked like a foreigner.
1923 and 1950. Now, Dr. Woodson was also a very active member of his community. He wasn't just the guy that sat up on the second floor of his house and just watched life go by as he wrote all day. He was hand-delivering his materials to the post office. He was walking to the neighborhood schools to deliver talks. He was regaling the neighborhood kids with tales of Egyptian pharaohs, West African kings and queens. He was an active member of his community. He even got a nickname from the neighborhood kids because he walked so much with his arms full of books, they started calling him Bookman. So he wanted.
Whenever y'all go and get tours on anything, I don't even care if it's a tour of a city. Use your discernment in what the people be saying. 60 to 70% of what you hear on any tour, I don't give a damn where you at. 60 to 70% of what you're hearing is all cap. I'm telling you now. They're not telling y'all the truth. They only it's a whole bunch of staging, It's all about you buying in the bullshit. That's all this is about. This is why even with his story, Carter G. Woodson, he was poor. He didn't pay himself a salary. Instead of changing out his doorknobs, he went down to the local Ace Hardware and the O'Reilly's, and he went and got one that was broken already, and he paid him 2 nickels so that he can rub them together and get the door. Bullshit. They just trying to get you to look at this person as, oh my God, we're relatable, so that you can fall in love with the cap that comes behind it.
That those students knew that their history didn't just start with slavery. That it was a very noble time for their people, and it's something that they overcame. But he wanted them to know that it didn't just start there. They had a rich history that started way before capture and enslavement. So when we came to the house, we wanted to make sure that we kept with that trend of the historic neighborhood. So if you see, I'm sorry, the sun was in my eyes.
No, yeah, same here.
This top picture here is what the house looked like in the 1970s, right before Asala will actually leave this house and go to a separate location on this time 14th Street. Now here, this is a picture taken in 2006, and you can see that the actual brick of the home has been removed. So what we did was we took each individual brick, removed them, numbered them one by one, and then put them back in the right place. So if you go out and brace yourself against the wall, if Dr. Woodson had braced himself against the wall, you'd be touching a spot that he touched. So we can continue down the hallway into this room here.
Girl, fuck Carter G. Woodson, girl.
This is what I would say is the most important room in the house because it's the library. And this is where the researchers would spend the majority of their time working. So this is one of Dr. Woodson's most notable photographs. It's one of the few.
So it's this room.
I'm sorry?
So that photograph.
Yeah, it's taken in this room. It's actually against this very wall. So you can actually see through the doorway. You can see his desk and all of those books. You can look through the window and see that historic structure that we were just looking at. And of course, you got Dr. Woodson in his bookcase. So each of these walls would have had their own massive bookcase piled high with books.
Family, did you just hear what this young lady said? This beautiful tourist has just explained, employee of the National Park Service has explained to me that all of the pictures that we post on Facebook, all of the pictures that that's floating around on either social media or just on the website is this room right here. All of the bookshelves are here. That's what she just finished telling me. This is absolutely beautiful.
All right, so we can head on up the steps.
Why is it? Okay.
And so this is what I would say is the most private area of the house. So this is Dr. Woodson's private residence. So not a lot of people are allowed up these steps, as this is not where the Asala is functioning out of. This is just where he sleeps, where he gets his privacy. So we can start to head on up.
Okay.
Now that room directly ahead of you is more book storage, which just speaks towards Dr. Woodson's character and his sort of drive. So Dr. Woodson only has 3 rooms up here, as you can see, and he still takes one of them and reserves it for his organization, for his books. Now this is the living room or the sitting room. We know 2 people that were allowed in this space, Nanny Helen Burroughs and Mary McLeod Bethune, 2 women that were very close with Dr. Woodson, the only individuals that were allowed to call him Carter, his first name. And they were constantly trying to set him up on dates because he takes a vow of celibacy as well as a vow of poverty. Excuse me. He used to say that women spend on cigarettes and drink in one day on what he brought in a week. Now, he doesn't mean that to be disparaging towards women, excuse me, but he means it to say that these are luxuries of life. And he recognizes that, and he wouldn't ask anyone, especially a woman, to sort of reject those luxuries to be with him. It was a burden he wouldn't ask other people to do on his behalf. All right, so we can head on into this room here. Now this is the most private room in the house. 2 people for certain were allowed in this space. Dr. Woodson himself and a man known as Robert Best. Now Robert Best was 15 years old when he came to work for Dr. Woodson, and he was his mail boy. His one job, his one opportunity to come in the house It was with a key. That Dr. Carter G. Woodson would leave him when he went out of town. He would use it on this door here, take Dr. Woodson's mail, leave it on the nightstand, and then immediately leave. He was not allowed to stay in this room. In fact, if Dr. Woodson would found one black hair on his bedspread, he was firing anyone who had access to the space. How do we know? Because Robert Best told us that that's how he got his job. So
wow.
The prior mayor boy had actually left of one black hair. Dr. Woodson kind of told the guy off and fired him and hired Robert.
Incredible.
But this would have been Dr. Woodson's private sanctum, the one place that he probably didn't have to be Dr. Woodson. He was just Carter, the son of escaped slaves. He was the former garbage collector, the former coal miner. He was the principal of a school, a teacher by trade, not necessarily the father of Black history, and everything that goes with that. And in this room, he could just probably relax and be himself. Now, on his last day, April 3rd, 1950, his secretary heard him walking across his floor and assumed he was all right, but he didn't come down to address his staff at 12:15. She became worried and came up the steps to knock very timidly on the door. Now, when she didn't get a response, she became even more worried. She goes back down the steps and she gets one of the Woodson boys, who are a group of mentees of Dr. Woodson, to come upstairs and knock the door down. That's when they find that Dr. Woodson has actually passed away in his bed from a heart attack. It might have even been a broken heart, because 2 days prior, on April 1st, 1950, his dear friend Charles Drew died of a very tragic, very sudden car accident. So they say it was 74. He was in a state of
Carter G. Woodson was probably gay. I was thinking it. He was probably gay. All of that, I'm not going to ask women to use their lust on me, and only one man boy had the key. He was probably gay. And I'm not even trying to be negative, but I that's what I get. You dying of a broken heart because another man died. He was gay. I can assume. But back then, if you was gay, you couldn't come out and say it. You see what I'm saying? Because why would a man die of a broken heart of another man dying? Show me in history where, unless it's his father or his brother, show me in history where a man dies because another man died. Show me. I'll wait. I can see women. I see men die because they lose their wife. You see what I'm saying? I see men die because they might lose their parent. I get that. Because another man died. He vowed to celibacy and being broke. Stop the cap. Stop the cap. Stop the cap. I don't trust none of that. He probably was a punk. Say what I said. Now, moving on, I want to show y'all this video from the late great brother, Steve Coakley. Now, if y'all don't know who Steve Coakley is, you have been living under a rock. Steve Coakley is the GOAT. He is the guy who's been exposing the Boule, the Divine Nine organizations, and even the Freemasons since the 80s and 90s? If y'all have not looked into this brother Steve Coakley, then you have not understood anything as far as these secret societies. When it comes to the information about these secret societies, his lectures are still all over YouTube. Go look up brother Steve Coakley. Well, I found this video because in this video, he talks about the Divine Nine, the Boule, and African American studies, and how they were all basically not coerced, because coerced implies that they didn't want to do it. They were all in on this thing behind the scenes. Okay, it was one big thing that everybody knew about behind the scenes to introduce to us. Now, I must say, Steve Coakley was a Pan-Africanist. Like I told y'all at the beginning of the stream, most people, especially in the 90s, were, because they were coming off of this whole we African, and plus you had the studies of Marcus Garvey. Malcolm X was also a Pan-Africanist. So a lot of these people really did believe that we were from Africa. We got to charge that to the game. We can't charge it to their heart. If Steve Coakley was alive today, I'm pretty sure he would not be a Pan-Africanist. I'm pretty sure his studies would have led him into something different. But During the time he was a Pan-Africanist, so when you hear him say stuff about African and calling us that, please charge it to the game, or anything that he referenced that gives off a Pan-African idea, because that was the mindset of a lot of black people then. But let's get into him exposing this D9 crap with this Boule stuff. He's going to talk about W.E.B. Du Bois. He's going to talk about Carter G. Woodson and a few other things. Let's get into it. Hold on. Where's the volume?
Strangulation of Marcus Garvey, the creation of a false scenario called between myself and share with you a little dialogue between myself and Jesse Jackson on the radio over who is the enemy. What is the enemy? You will be intrigued by the answer, but what you will see about the answer is that he cannot name it. I know it's like laying somebody up a ball and all they got to do is spike it over the net, and when they go and they catch it and throw it back the other way. So ain't no accident yet. And I believe that there are more people in on this than we've ever come to imagine. I believe this is deeper than we thought.
Yep.
I've spent a lot of my last couple of months reading the Negro stuff. I'm never into the Negro books and stuff, Negro history and stuff. But now that we come to understand the Boule's role in protecting the Round Table group, I now have to go back and see just how this thing got put in place. I did a series of tapes called White Finance Negro Leadership versus Marcus Garvey and Black Jewish Relations 93, where I watched the development of this thing and I stand up to say that the Boule first assignment was the strangulation of Marcus Garvey, the creation of a false scenario called Harlem Renaissance, and the diversion of black scientists and others to get into poetry, dance, and literature to offset an emerging black military.
Wait a minute. I can't let him just go past that. Rewind. So basically he's saying that, first of all, we already knew W.E.B. Du Bois was beefing with Marcus Garvey. He couldn't stand Meatball. He wanted him out the paint. You see what I'm saying? We already talked about that last week. So what he's saying is the Boule's job was not only to go against Marcus Garvey, but it sounds like he's saying that it was also, I forgot the last part. I done lost my train of thought. What did he say?
And I believe that there are more people in on this than we've ever come to imagine. I believe this is deeper than we thought. I've spent a lot of my last couple of months reading the Negro stuff. I'm never into the Negro books and stuff, Negro history and stuff. But now that we come to understand the Boule's role in protecting the Round Table group, I now have to go back and see just how this thing got put in place. I did a series of tapes called White Finance Negro Leadership versus Marcus Garvey and Black Jewish Relations 93, where I watched the development of this thing and I stand up to say that the Boule first assignment was the strangulation of Marcus Garvey, the creation of a false scenario called Harlem Renaissance.
That's what I wanted to talk about. The creation of a false scenario called the Harlem Renaissance to offset a black military. Pause. We know the NAACP, W.E.B. Du Bois, Carter G. Woodson, all of them had their hands into the Harlem Renaissance. As a matter of fact, it only went off the way it did because their hands was in it. But now it makes sense why they would turn the Harlem Renaissance into a whole culture type of thing where they over there painting and dancing and singing and shit, because they don't want these niggas to form no militia or at least no defense to go up and fight these people. Now, why is this important? Because this ain't white people stopping black people from forming a militia. It's black people. It's the Divine Nine and the Boule. That's their job. The Boule translates to advisors to the king. I learned that from the late, great Mr. Steve Coakley, okay? And because of that, I know that their job is to make sure, like I told y'all at the beginning of the live, we stay underfoot. We stay below and keep them white folks at the top. So the fact that the Boule, other black people, would come in and try to divert our attention from fighting back into some goddamn Harlem Renaissance bullshit, it makes all the sense in the world. And this is why I tell people, even if you are part of a Divine Nine organization, you may not be privy to this information because it's not for everybody to know. That's why most people in those organizations are at the very bottom of the pyramid. However, It's pivotal that you're in it to keep it alive for the ones who are behind the scenes pulling the real strings. So they need you as a front. When you get up there and ski-wee and stomp the yard, that's the front for what they really doing behind the scenes. So anything wrapped up in the Divine Nine, the Boule, and the Freemasons, I got to call them too. I always question it. Damn sure question everything with the Divine Nine and the Boule. But everything, I always question anything coming out of those organizations because I know what their job is. Their job is to keep us stupid and keep the white people in charge while they get to live somewhere in the middle and live happily ever after.
Version of black scientists and others to get into poetry, dance, and literature to offset an emerging black military. Very, very intense research. I'll tell you some books you might check in on right now. Also, there's a tape up there called What's Your Mother's Maiden Name? Boule. It's a recent code we just deciphered. I'm going to show you that right here. But the tape is about some recent Negro history stuff I found. I think one person bought the tape. If you're a researcher, you will find how valuable it is at piecing all these things together. I found some information with Carter G. Woodson talking about how others of the blacks have sold out to the various white foundations that were buying up Negroes at that time. And he says one of the things they asked him was, will you fuck Marcus Garvey when I give you this money? And he said how secretly he never wanted to say he was with Garvey, but how personally he would never be a part of fighting against him. And he talks about meetings with A. Philip Randolph and Du Bois and others where they vehemently said how they was going to jam up Garvey. And he says how much he heard it. He said, when Garvey died, I cried. And then in my eulogy to Garvey, I finally tell how much I loved him. And then I write in the Negro world. He starts writing in the Negro world, sharing his work with them. Eventually, he wrote The Miseducation of the Negro, because he then came to understand that he had been used, that the college-trained phenomenon was a hoax. Now, he was a founder of the Boule in Washington, D.C.
Pause. Are y'all following what he's saying? He's saying, okay, so for y'all who don't know, we already know W.E.B. Du Bois couldn't stand meatball. They wanted him out the paint. So apparently behind the scenes, they were having meetings to corner him and get him out the paint. I think now that it sounds like the Boule got him touched and got him out of here. You see what I'm saying? But Carter G. Woodson, who secretly liked him or I guess followed him, he wouldn't take part in getting him out the paint. But he said once he finally died, he was able to come to terms and tell people that how he really truly felt about Marcus Garvey. And also his conviction started getting the best of him, which means he started feeling some type of way knowing that they backdoored him. You see what I'm saying? But that's not the worst part. I think the craziest part is that Carter G. Woodson realized that he was a part of an organization that was a hoax. The whole Boule D9 situation with everything, even the stuff they're introducing. This is when, according to him, Carter G. is realizing, holy crap, I done stepped in some and this ain't nothing I thought it was. Let me let him finish cooking.
We came a long way to come to that conclusion. What we now have within our reach is the ability to make up our mind and not take 40 years to do it. Because we've got the information that he had that quickly showed him what the real deal was. Du Bois eventually changed his mind after years of being the same. The book by Goggins, Goggins, on Carter G. Woodson. I know you can get it at everyone's place bookstore in Baltimore. No Brother Nati got this book. It's a book about Carter G. Woodson. Talks about the Rockefeller Foundation, the Rosenwalds, and others, and how he keeps trying to do this thing. He tries to help them help his history association, but they keep saying, look, you got to lick my balls to get this money. And he keeps writing his personal letters about how much he hates the others who have taken the money that make the hockey think he got to take the money too to go along, because there was no black financing of black things. That was awesome dialogue. There's also a new book out about W.E.B. Du Bois by David Levering Lewis. Thick book, 700 pages, and very, very important book. Very, very important because nowhere in the 700 pages does he mention the Boule in the whole book. But, check this out. When he does the interview on the book in the Washington Post, and I got to tell you the dates, right? But this article is awesome. He talks about that he heard Du Bois personally in 1948 speak at Central State University where the Boule was hosting a meeting because his father was in the Boule, David Levery Lewis. And that his father was head of the School of Divinity at Central State, and that he, as a Boule child, was at the convention and heard W.E.B. Du Bois in 48 say, this talented temp shit don't work.
Pause. So Carter G. Woodson's daddy was in the Boule? Because that ain't what Wikipedia lied and told us. Is that what he's saying? It sounds like he said he was the go back.
Phenomenon was a hoax. Now, he was the founder of the Boule in Washington, D.C., so he came a long way to come to that conclusion.
Unless he's talking about WEB.
What we now have within our reach is the ability to make up our mind and not take 40 years to do it. Because we've got the information that he had that quickly showed him what the real deal was. Du Bois eventually changed his mind.
He's talking about W.E.B. Du Bois. Du Bois changed his mind about the tent. So basically what he's going into now is the people who were founding of the talented tent are starting to realize it's cap. That's what he's going into now. So he's talking about W.E.B. Du Bois, whose father, I guess, was in it. I don't know. Let me let him finish.
The book by Goggins, Goggins, on Carter G. Woodson. I know you can get it at everyone's place bookstore in Baltimore. No Brother Nati got this book. It's a book about Carter G. Woodson. Talks about the Rockefeller Foundation, the Rosenwalds, and others, and how he keeps trying to do this thing. He tries to help them help his history association, but they keep saying, look, you got to lick my balls to get this money. And he keeps writing his personal letters about how much he hates the others who have taken the money that make the hockey think he got to take the money too, to go along, because there was no black financing of black things. That was awesome dialogue. There's also a new book out about W.E.B. Du Bois by David Levery Lewis. Thick book, 700 pages, a very, very important book. Very, very important because nowhere in the 700 pages does he mention the Boule in the whole book. But check this out. When he does the interview on the book in the Washington Post, and I got to tell you the dates, right? But this article is awesome. He talks about that he heard Du Bois personally in 1948 speak at Central State University, where the Boule was hosting a meeting because his father was in the Boule, David Levery Lewis. And that his father was head of the School of Divinity at Central State, and that he, as a Boule child, was at the convention and heard W.E.B. Du Bois in 48 say, this talented temp shit don't work. We was a fraud. I helped mislead my own people, the honky betrayers. I'll show you some stuff in that white finance Negro leadership tape on Garvey, where the Jewish community set it up and plotted why it would go into the black community and be a donor to get a right to assimilate with the other whites. And for that, they would fight anti-Semitism by remote control. Say, as we get the money, we can fight it like click. Awesome confessions. So the work, in fact, the key story was this Memphis Commercial Appeal story that came out back in a year ago, about in March, right now, a year ago. And I asked brothers, had the story come out much here? And he said, no. You familiar with the story that had come out that the Army had been spying on Martin King's granddaddy since 1917? You remember the story, maybe March 23rd, 1993? You heard about this? Okay, well.
And if y'all pay attention to what he's saying, you realize that a lot of this stuff is bloodline. I went and looked up W.E.B. Du Bois' dad, and they said he was a Haitian. W.E.B. Du Bois' daddy, father Alfred Du Bois, a mixed-race Haitian immigrant and Civil War veteran. This what they saying about W.E.B. Du Bois' daddy. His daddy left the family when William was a toddler. Then when I went and looked up, sorry. Then when I went and looked up, Carter G. Woodson daddy, his name said, Google says James Henry Woodson was a formerly enslaved farmer, laborer, and carpenter who valued education but struggled to support his family. Somebody lying, and I think it's Google. Somebody lying. One of their daddies was in there before that. Carter G. Woodson daddy is supposed to be a mixed race tether, not Carter. W.E.B. Du Bois' dad is supposed to be a mixed race tether, and Carter G. Woodson daddy, they say, was a broken poor man who valued education. It probably was his daddy. But listen, outside of that though, listen, now they're starting to realize, first of all, Carter G. Woodson is trying to get funding for his African Histories program or African American History program, and all of the powers that be at the time is telling him, you got to suck my you know what to get it. He wouldn't do it, but then he upset with the other talented 10 people who did do it. And then they all come to the conclusion that this is all a bunch of cap. But remember, before any of this, the damage is already done. W.E.B. Du Bois has already made Black Americans start to believe that they Africans. We got African AME churches popping up like crazy. Carter G. Woodson had already implemented the Negro History Week. Then we also got Black History Month that's going to come after that. Also, he's got this whole African American studies thing in all of the colleges. The damage is already done. I know a lot of us are very soft-hearted. I'm a soft-hearted person too, but not when I know the damage is already done. I can forgive you and not forget. I forgive all these people for what they did, but I'll be damned if I forget. These people put whole systems and mentalities in place that have screwed us for over 100 years. Over 100 years, we've been fighting with the stuff they implemented back in 1919 and all these earlier times. This is ridiculous. I feel like it's a day late, dollar short.
We'll have to spend a day on it because it helped me understand something. What the story identified was a Philadelphia family. Key, a guy named Emmett Scott, who had a son who was a physician here in Philadelphia, who was the father of Elaine Brown of the Black Panthers. She mentions it in her book on page 50. She mentions, that's it, Brother John's got it right there. On page 50 of that book, she mentions that Emmett Scott, the first Black man to serve in the cabinet in 1917, he was special assistant to the Secretary of War, Newton Baker. Emmett Scott had come from Tuskegee, where he was the assistant to R.R. Moulton, who was on ship when the Tuskegee experiment went down. All this shit hooks up now. I'll walk you. I don't have time to go all this route with you, but this is where I am lately. I have a need sometimes to talk out to the people where I'm studying, because many times it's not at the spot I'm lecturing. The lessons you miss, I really shouldn't be into this, but I'm kind of excited about it, so I got to tell you where I am, because when I suggest these things to you and you pick up the themes, you bring information that adds on to where I'm looking and the picture gets clear. And that's an honorable thing. I say in the tape, I need an overhead projector. So when I'm in Los Angeles, I go to little students, bring an overhead projector and present it to me as a gift at a lecture. Well, I couldn't carry it with me on the airplane, so I donated it to the place I lecture in LA, the Good Life Health Food Store. So now that's available for everybody. Someone in Philadelphia, here's a tape, but says he needs an overhead projector. So tonight, a brother bought me a brand new overhead projector, which he's going to give to me tonight. And I'm honored by that. So I don't underestimate what it means to say it into the tape to the people, because the people respond. When the focus comes down, the people do what has to be done. And if everybody does what they can do, we got it covered. If you catch the ones in your thing, in your sphere, everybody catch theirs, we got it covered. You know, the CIA has a thing. There's another set of tapes you missed. It's called Future Goals of the Spy System, the Early Warning Officer, Spy System 2000, the Targeting of the Poor. I had that over there tonight. And the other one I didn't bring is How the Intelligence Community Monitors Networks and Groups. Pardon me? I was looking for that and I didn't find it. Right. Well, I only could bring some of them. I've been selling out at every stop, so I don't get as much time between lectures to make the tape. So that's something else we got to widen out on is making tapes. It's an honor to be in this position. Things are moving. It appears as if circumstances are forcing the people to a clear picture. And it's an honor to be in the vanguard of pushing towards support negativity, because my greatest dream that I see just as clearly is the day we hold that beast head up and we pull out the big sword and make that cut. And everybody steps up and takes a little slice. You come. I see people as far as I can see. And this is the day the beasts go down. And I just a little sidebar. The keepers of the beasts are Rockefeller of North America. There's no name. Rothschild for the Europeans. and Oppenheimer for the Africans and the Australians. Those three families performed the triangle around the core of negativity, of which I don't have no name for. I cannot tell you what that is. But we strained 2 or 3 of them up there, tell. The police have shown you that we're threatened with incarceration or pain. You will tell on anybody. Check. You're supposed to say no check. Yeah, all right. Watch it now. I want no Jim Jones shit here. Now, you with me, you got to think your way through. Question my shit. Check me out. Go check the books. His brother unfair when he said this about this one or that one. Is he wrong about this? Is the information really there? Check me out, don't. Hey, we have all fested the error. That's why we all here. So all of us can be checked. That's part of the game. Yeah. I take the weight. I'll bear the burden. Be no greater burden to bear. We be in line with that. So get that book on W.B. Du Bois, David Levering Lewis, because in it he tells about the day that Spingarn comes and offers him to be a captain in military intelligence. And what the story said in the Memphis Commercial Appeal was that Spingarn had been a military spy every day he was chairman of the NAACP. He even turned over all the memberships of the group, and that Du Bois was his man. And that together they went out and formed a spy network that identified potential troublemakers and also suggested potential informants. And the Boule served as the network in every city to set up a spy organization. That's what we were able to put together with the Memphis Commercial Appeal story. So how I got banned on the radio in D.C. was that Kathy Hughes has the story reprinted 25,000 times in the newspaper there, the News Dimension. It was a great thing. They sold 30,000 copies at 25 cents. Really helped the brothers' paper. It was an outstanding achievement. But the story was about everything already passed. And I know enough about the intelligence community to know that when it wants to tell something, it always tells you about things already passed. Coin Intel Pro, not now Intel Pro. They will tell you who they radiated in the 40s, but it's a secret. You got to catch the 94 radiation. Yep. You got to catch them. It'll be 124 for they'll tell on the 94 people. Yep. Okay? So when somebody starts telling me about 1917 and 1968, that's where it ended. I understand that that's part of the diversion to stop you from 98 and 88. Check. And then those 3 spy tapes, which really needs to be a lecture in itself. I talk about where we notice that the CIA has this little model that they use to measure a true threat. And it's called intention plus capability equal threat. It's a formula. They got all kind of A's and Pythagorean shit, all stolen shit, all up under there. Because this is a computer model that they use to measure information. For example, they say, black man, Miller, Philadelphia, wants to free Mandela. Check up his, that's intention. Threat, appears to lack resources to get a plane ticket. Equals a capability. Threat equals 0. Okay? So they listen to the dialogue and they measure the capability of imposing the dialogue, and that equals your threat potential. Check? And they have all kinds of sophisticated ways of breaking this down, measuring the informant, this and that. An intention is measured by indicators. Copley announces in Philadelphia that he's having a conference in Baltimore, and I am, and I'm inviting all of you to it, July 8th to July 15th. It's going to be at the Hyatt, Regency, Harbor, wherever the Hyatt.
I'm sorry, I would get caught up in his lectures because he's kind of going off about some other stuff. But the part that I really wanted y'all to catch from him was him talking about the Boule and their involvement in what's going on. Now, remember, Carter G. Woodson is a member of the Boule, even though later on down the line, he realized this is all a bunch of cap and these people is getting real dirty. It was too late. The deed was already done. When you look at all of the things that we know in history, they're all wrapped around controversy in secret societies. The Civil War, the Civil Rights Movement, everything we've had in our history, the Black Panther movement, is all surrounded by secret societies and obviously the Boule. Remember, the enemy can't do anything unless we help them and allow them. This is how they're capable of doing what they're doing. So your Carter G. Woodsons, your W.E.B. Du Bois, your what's that, Meatball, all of them people, your Martin Luther the Kings, all of these other people who presented all of these systems and these societies to us, they were literally created and planted to do exactly what they did. Okay. Now, one of the things that what's his name, Carter G. Woodson implemented was obviously Negro History Week, which would later on turn into Black History Month, right? Now, the thing about it is, when it comes down to Negro History Week, I think this is a good, when it comes down to Negro History Week, we didn't know. First of all, we didn't ask for a Negro History Week. Nobody asked for it. Carter G. Woodson just assumed that this was something that we needed. And he didn't assume this is something that we needed. He was taking orders from the people prior to him, telling him what to do. Remember, these are the people or the beings that have really mapped this whole thing out for hundreds of years. And they know one thing begets this thing, which begets that thing, and then so on and so forth. So when they had him implement Negro History Week, all that encompassing this African stuff, it was on purpose to throw us off of our rocker and mentally take us off of our land. Now, Negro History Week, we know would go on later to be Black History Month. And right now, it's hard to get a nigga off Black History Month. It's so hard to get niggas, and it's the worst part. It's been infiltrated so bad to where now Black History Month is really celebrated more by the tethers. When you look at all kind of black this, black that, it's nothing but tethers. We don't have nothing no more, but that's done by design. Let's get into this Black History Week.
History Month, as we know.
Hold on.
But I remember Negro History Week.
Okay.
So the title of this video is From Negro History Week to Black History Month. Carter G. Woodson, the African-American scholar, author, and historian, designated Negro History Week as the second week in February in 1926. The purpose of the week was to teach the history of Black people in the United States. Dr. Woodson, like other historians of African descent, took issue with the idea that African people and African descended people had not made a major contribution to world civilization.
And understand what's happening. First of all, Carter G. Woodson was not of African descent. He don't have no Africans in his bloodline. But remember, words are powerful. If they make him an African and make you believe that he's an African, then all these Cabbage Patch Kids that they over there growing in the field during this time, they'll have an easier transition to come right on in and say, we are them and they are us. But it's not to say that we are the same. It's to push us to the back and let them stand in front as if they are the people. That's what this whole thing is about. Him introducing Africa to Black America is not for us. It's for them. It's for them. It's never been for us. It's for them to have a way into our shit. That's what this is. This is what this whole thing is all about. And it works. And if you think I'm lying, take a look at today. Everything we got that was for us is no longer for us. It's for everybody except us. But the worst part is they can't do it without us, so they need us to buy in on them doing it and replacing us. That's what all of this was about. When they implemented this shit in the early 1900s, it wasn't for the 1900s. It's for 2026 right now, today. Man. And these the people that a lot of us look up to and be like, oh, this person, man, fuck these people, bruh. For real, for real.
So he went to work researching, documenting, and publishing what African Americans had done in this country. I think it's important to keep this in perspective. Carter G. Woodson's focus was on African Americans' achievements. There are other African American historians who focus on the diaspora and the total accomplishments of Black people throughout the world. But Carter G. Woodson's focus was on the accomplishments of African Americans, the descendants of slavery.
No, it wasn't.
Dr.
That's a lie.
Woodson was born in 1875. That was during the Reconstruction era. So he had escaped slavery, fortunately. He had had an opportunity to go to school.
Let me
Even though he
fast
had
forward
taken
her.
traveled, he had studied, and he had worked in different parts of the world. So
Get
he
to Negro
knew
History
the
Week, girl.
contribution. Negro History Week was observed at my school growing up. The people that you see on the screen now are examples of the people that we studied in school. They did outstanding work for African Americans specifically, but also for America, and in some cases, the world.
Do y'all see that destiny swap? They're calling these people Africans, but none of these people are African. They're all American. But if you say they're African, when the new African come today, they can lay claim to it. Because remember, we are to believe that these Americans, these Indians, these niggas, we are to believe that these earlier black people were African. That's the whole play. That's why they're able to come over here and do exactly what they're doing now, because of this. So of course you say it's nothing. Whatever, call them African American. No, because when you say that they're African, all these other Cabbage Patch Kids get to come in and say that's me, and that's not them. They don't even have running water and electricity in Nigeria. You see what I'm saying?
And in some cases, the world. Booker T. Washington, founder and chief administrator of
Not
Tuskegee
African.
University. James Weldon Johnson, outstanding poet.
Not
and
African.
writer. Dr. Charles Drew, the preserver of blood.
He was damn near white. That's another thing that went off in the history. All these poisson blown white people and most of them ain't even have no nigga in them. All they had to do was just say it. But if they had one drop, y'all was able to diss the biracials, the mulattoes, the Trojan horse. Because we believed in that one drop rule. It was so many white people that walked amongst us, and all they had to do was just say, oh yeah, I got a black great grandmother. And niggas was just like, oh yeah, you black too. He's a white boy. I know, I can see them thin ass lips. He might got some little black somewhere in him, but that's a white boy.
Plasma, Harriet Tubman, abolitionist
Her
to
fake
free
ass.
herself and other slaves, and who was a major spy for the Union Army during the Civil War. Sojourner Truth, bold,
Her fake
charismatic
ass.
orator who spoke out against the evils of slavery and who spoke on behalf
All these people
of
ops.
women's rights. Frederick Douglass,
Fake
outstanding and charismatic orator who spoke out and wrote about the evils of slavery, who had also escaped from slavery, so he was a fierce abolitionist as well. And Dr. George Washington Carver, scholar, scientist, inventor, and educator dedicated to his work at Tuskegee University. This list is in no way comprehensive. These are just a few of the outstanding African Americans that I studied when
Did y'all notice out of that whole list of people that they were celebrating for Negro History Week, not one of them were African. Not one of those people were African. But they didn't have to be African. Only thing needed to happen was we needed to believe that they were African. Does that make sense? Because soon as we believe it, the witchcraft is initiated. So if we think they Africans and we look at the Africans we see today, we're going to equate the ones we see today as the ones in history. And a lot of Black Americans right now do that. That's why they will tell you down to the ground that they African American. Because in their mind, they believe the hype. They drank the Kool-Aid to believe that those people were African then, so that must mean we're African now. And that also must mean all these fly swatting motherfuckers around me gotta be kin to me. Which is all cap. Witchcraft is what it is.
Segregated school. We studied the accomplishments that our people had made that were known and documented. We were not taught and had no idea the extent to which this country had relied on their labor and their genius. And while we're at it, let me just lay this on you. When we were in school, we were taught that one of the slaves invented the cotton gin. The cotton gin that Eli Whitney gets credit for. Eli Whitney was born in Massachusetts, had never picked a bowl of cotton in his life, but all of a sudden he invents cotton gin. The story was that he came to a plantation. The slave told him about this process of separating seed from cotton, and slaves could not get a patent. They were not American citizens, so whatever they came up with, the owner of the plantation got the credit and the money for it. Now, looking at that in a vacuum and saying, oh, a slave invented the cotton gin, it might sound preposterous, outrageous, unbelievable. But
All
when
right,
you look
we
at
know
what
a
they
slave
did,
did that. Let me show y'all something. Because remember, the witchcraft is to believe that we were labeled as African back then. We were not. I don't care what history says today. Then, if you talk to a black person in America or an Indian, because that's what we called ourselves, indigenous person, none of them will tell you that they African. But we can't talk to them people. So all we have to rely on is the history. But one thing I learned about knowing what I'm looking at today is if I look at what happened today, I can tell what happened yesterday. And if I know what happened yesterday, I can damn sure see what's happening today, and I can most likely predict what's gonna happen tomorrow. It's kind of a thing, and it ain't no special gift or nothing. It's just a matter of paying attention, okay? And what I found is if the trick was to get us to believe that we're African, and so that the African can come over here and cosplay us today, then all I need to do is look around and see where can I find that to be true. Well, I came across this African dude who shared a video on W.E.B. Du Bois. And when he speak about not W.E.B. Du Bois, who wrote on Carter G. Woodson, when he speaks about Negro History Week, Black Americans, or he ain't gonna say Black Americans, African Americans, notice how he include himself and other Africans. That's the whole play. This is how you know what W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, and Carter G. Woodson, and a few others, the stuff that they implemented then worked flawlessly because I'm looking at the results of it today. Let's get into this video. Hold on.
And this is what many a great thinker of our Afro-descendant community have noticed and have tried to fight against
now look,
since they were.
Let me back him up. He's talking about Carter G. Woodson, a Black American man, not an African, who created African American studies. But watch how he throw all the Africans in there.
Class, even though during the council meeting, 28 folks spoke in favor of the history class.
So much of our history is infused with people trying to tell themselves that they're better than another group. And when you're teaching history on an equal level and you're prioritizing or making equal that other group, you have to then admit, we're equal. That's hard for a lot of people.
Our history.
How many times have you heard the phrase, education is the key? Education is important. Or again, go to school and study, young child. That is how you will better our society. As an African, I cannot count the number of times I have heard these phrases, and I'm sure it is the same for you brothers and sisters in the diaspora, whether it is in the US, the Caribbean, etc. We've all heard this phrase, and we have to agree that this is a true statement. An educated population brings about the betterment of their society, and that has been true throughout history.
To the Afro theory person, you're wrong. You're wrong. Even though, because the Afro theory person says, yes, we were considered African, and Negro/Black Americans refer to themselves as such. Hence the Free African Society. That's just one example. Afro theory, you are wrong. Although the Free African Society did exist, people in America did not refer to themselves as African. It is not written by no people. Yes, it is written in so-called scholarly stuff, because as we're discovering now, that's a psyop. But the average person in America had no clue about Africa, nor was they saying that they were African. It's not true. And this is why history was written the way that it was, to confuse you. So just because they created the Free African Society, we must have been calling ourselves African. That's a lie. That is a lie from the pits of hell. And if you think I'm lying, ask your grandmother if you Black American, because you might be an African tether. But if you're a Black American, I'm a Black American, and I've spoken to many elders in my family, and none of them knew about Africa. None of them would have even thought about Africa until they were taught it either in school or at a church or through the goddamn television. We knew nothing and had no concept of Africa, so stop the cap. That is a tether way to tether on to our history. But remember, our history is extremely valuable. These are a bunch of African tethers and other tethers who have nothing to live for and nothing to go home to. All they have is us. So they need to continue to have us buy into the bullshit to give them an identity, when the fact of the matter is they don't have none. And I'm not saying all Africans. I'm talking about the ones that be in our shit. Y'all don't have no history. None. You literally come from a petri dish. And then y'all want to come and tell us that because they created the Free African Society, we must have been Africans. Cap. We got elders that were alive during that time that could tell us that that's not true. We literally got elders today that we can go to and debunk that. That is not true. But again, the reason why they called it the Free African Society is so today you could believe the bullshit. Don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe.
Since the time of ancient Kemet to modern civilizations such as China, Japan, Europe, etc., giving the right kind of education to the population is sure to bring about a well-organized and great society. The right kind of education. Yes, you heard it right, because a people can be given the wrong kind of education. An example of the wrong kind of education being given to
Do y'all notice even in this person's video, he blends Africans with Black Americans? You don't see him blending no Caribbeans. You don't see him blending no Afro-Latinas. You don't see him blending. All you see him blending is Black America with Africans. The reason is because they need us to mesh them together so that they can destiny swap with us. That's why. It's so fucking obvious. They need us to mesh with them so that they can destiny swap and take our fucking inheritance. Fucking imbeciles.
Could be Africa since colonization. And this is what many a great thinker of our Afro-descendant community have noticed and have tried to fight against since they were made aware of it. We could name thinkers such as Dr. Chancellor Williams in the US or Dr. Shepherd Diop in Senegal, Africa, and many others throughout the motherland and the diaspora. But there is one man.
Look at how he blended the two. He took a Black American and an African and blended them together to make it seem like we're one. Y'all can't see the play. He's trying to make us one so that they can reign on top. That's the whole reason why they so hyper focused on us. They need us to buy into the bullshit so that they can take our place. But God, the Most High, refuse. The ancestors in the universe refuse to let that happen. They'll obliterate all you motherfuckers before they let y'all do that. I ain't say I would do it. They would obliterate you motherfuckers before they allow y'all to do that. Y'all, they got to know this ain't gonna go nowhere. They got to know this ain't gonna go nowhere. But look how he blend the Africans with the Black Americans. Now you see, these are Africans. Look.
We could name thinkers such as Dr. Chancellor Williams
Black
in the
American.
US or Dr. Shepherd Diop in Senegal.
And then he put in an African to make it seem like they were all on the same page. Come on, man.
Africa, and many others throughout the motherland and the diaspora. But there is one man in particular that has perhaps left the greatest impact in the fight to better the education of our people, especially in the historical field. This man is single-handedly responsible for making historians throughout the world study the history of African Americans and Afro-descendants throughout the world as a serious subject of history. For at the time, the consensus was that there was no history to be studied among these Black peoples. This man realized very early on that
whoever this person was, he was spot on. Who this white man is?
a serious subject of history, for at the time the consensus was that there was no history.
I don't know if this is George Washington or another clear that looked like he ready to die, but he's absolutely right. Africa has no history and did not contribute to anything that mankind enjoyed. I need y'all to read that from the perspective of which it needs to be read. He not talking about black people. He talking about Africans. Read it again. Africans provided what? Africa has no history and did not contribute to anything that mankind enjoyed. And then they sent in Carter G. Woodson to change that up. But the way that they did it, they sent in Carter G. Woodson to switch it up and to add Africa to our history to give them a fucking history. That's what that was about. Carter G. Woodson came in and started calling us Africans to give them a history.
To be studied among these black peoples. This man realized very early on that the black man was being miseducated and thus left us a great work of insight that is not only relevant to African Americans today, but to all Afro descendants throughout the world, including those in the motherland of Africa. For as you shall see further in this video, we have all been miseducated and are continuing to be miseducated to this.
Yeah, we're not about to be miseducated by you, Mr. Africa. I'm showing y'all this video so that you can see exactly what I'm trying to tell you. You got to understand the play and why are we here? What's the purpose of calling us Africans? What would these people get out of us being Africans? Everything. Everything that they ever known or had comes from us. I told you, black Americans are the ones who went across the earth and was fruitful and multiplied. We created civilizations all over this earth. Most civilizations we don't even know we created because they occupied by Cabbage Patch Kids. The reason why they needed to mesh this whole thing up and make us African is to give these people a history that they do not have. That's why whenever you talk to an African and ask them about African history, they mums the word or they get the stuttering. But when you start talking about Black American history, they got all kinds of shit to say. Because they don't have no history. Remember, these are Cabbage Patch Kids. Where they gonna get history from? And I'm not speaking on all Africans. I'm talking about the ones over here now. No culture, no history. You know when they got culture and history? Whenever Carter G. Woodson and W.E.B. Du Bois and Meatball and them told them that we was all one nigga. That's when they got history. And that's why in 2026, you rarely hear anything about African history. I think the most we hear about African history, we hear about Nelson Mandela. We hear a lot about South Africa. Now, when I speak about Africa, I don't necessarily be speaking about South Africa because they got their own thing going on. But when you think about African history, I took African studies in college. They ain't got no history. It's all intertwined with ours. Because had they not intertwined their history with ours, like the white boy just showed you, they would have no history. Because they don't have nothing and they haven't contributed anything to the world. If they did, they would be contributing today. I asked the people in the chat, what does Africa contribute to society? Go. What has Africa contributed to society? Go. I'll wait. I don't give a damn if we talking about North Africa or South Africa, West Africa, East Africa, the middle of the Africa. Name one thing that Africa has contributed to society. I will wait. And the reason why I'm gonna wait, because I know there's nothing you can come up with. And I know that I can see some of the Africans. No, voodoo. We contributed diamonds. Bullshit. You ain't contributing no diamonds, nigga. No, you're not. No, you're not. Y'all don't contribute nothing to society as a whole. Like the white boy said, they don't have no culture and they don't have no history and they don't need to be talked about because it's a fact. The only reason they even in the conversation is because we are too asleep to realize that we being played. We being walked like a dog by Petri dish, goddamn Cabbage Patch Kid, orphan train descendants. Right, daughter of the sun. Like she said, you think their history would involve older kingdoms, but it don't. Hello? Remember, all of the greatness of the kings and the queens supposedly come from Africa. Why we don't have no history on these African kings and queens and kingdoms? Why are we not learning about this in school? Because it doesn't exist. It's not real. If it existed, trust and believe, Africa would have let us know. If it existed, you got to know Africa would be standing on their soapbox. South Africa, West Africa, it don't matter. They would be standing on their soapbox saying this is what we contributed to the world. But the reason why you don't hear them say nothing, because they ain't gave nothing. I didn't say it. The white boy said it. They don't have no culture and they don't have no history. The only thing they got is tethering to Black America. And you can think other Black Americans, quote unquote Black Americans, like Carter G. Woodson, W.E.B. Du Bois, and goddamn Meatball, Marcus Garvey. You can thank those guys for giving them a history by meshing us all together. And that's just the long and short of it. Let me read a few super chats. Ouija Ken TV, thank you so much for the super chat. Says the boule, it means the burnt in Creole. Shake my head. I believe you. Thank you so much, Ouija. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Y'all get the likes up on the video. Why this thing not moving down? His Wonder Woman established 2019. Thank you so much for the super chat, beautiful. She says, thank you. No, thank you for coming in. You didn't have to be here, but you are. So thank you for coming on by. Shout out to y'all. Thank you, His Wonder Woman. Royale Gillison. Thank you so much. I used to date a guy named Royale. He was fine too. Ooh, he was fine. He had buku tattoos. He had a bald head. And he used to ride a motorbike. He was fine. And I didn't really date him. I'm going off the subject, but he kind of like I got caught up in a cheating thing. It was a thing. We'll talk about it another day. Sorry, your name just brought me back. Royale Gillison, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, what's up, boo? At this point, everybody and their mama saying they Black American. We have to come up with a race name that foreigners, tethers can attach, copy, or have no connections to. Absolutely. And I think the only thing that we can do for sure is bring up that genealogy. And let me also say this. Once we get that genealogy and we start getting back to our tribes, there's no way they can get in on that. There's no way they can get in on that. Once we get back to who we are originally and go back to our tribal names, even if we go back to one big indigenous culture, that's another way that they can't sneak in on indigenous. It's just words. We just got to find the correct title. I don't know if it's something we got to go back to. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm not the person to tell you. But whatever it is, we need to get to it and make it so airtight, like Royale said, make it so airtight that it can't be penetrated. And anything with the term Black is not tight enough. And I run a term. I have a business called BABE, Black Americans versus Everybody. But I'm the first person to tell you, using the term Black and adding anything before it and behind it is not enough. It's enough for now until they figure out how to infiltrate again. Does that make sense? You're right. We got to get something other than Black. I'm with you. And thank you again, Royale, for the super chat. Says, I'm a truck driver and normally can only listen, but today I got time. My mama and daddy and they mama and daddy's from Louisiana and Mississippi. Right. I was born and raised in Chicago, working on my genealogy. Shout out to you, Royale, and shout out to the fam. See, this is what I'm talking about. This stuff right here, they can't infiltrate. They can't touch it. They can't even think about it. Stuff like this sends them way the other way. Because there's no way for them to say that they are indigenous. They don't have the paperwork or the history. Right now, the only thing they have to attach themselves to our history is the term Black and African. Those two words. That's the only thing that gives them a way in. But see, when you start doing genealogy and you know for a fact who you are, it's a wrap. But like I said, it takes a third of us, just 1/3, for us to figure that out. Not half. Just 1/3, and watch the change, the immense change it makes. That's why every day I come on here telling y'all do your genealogy. Thank you, Royale. Natasha Holiday, thank you so much for becoming a new member. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Deserving 180, thank you so much for the super chat. Says Happy Educational Friday. Happy Educational Friday, Deserving One. Thank you so much for all your support. And Miss Parker 36, thank you for the super chat. Says they revise books in history, i.e., first and second education, etc. Absolutely. Not only that, they revise books, they revise shows, they revise movies, they take words out and put words in. They doing all kinds of stuff to make it where we can go back and reference. Do y'all remember? Put a 3 in the chat if y'all remember that black lady who recorded television for like 30 years. Y'all remember that black lady? See, they give us the story about this black woman. For y'all who don't know, there was a black woman. I can't remember where she was at, but she decided one day out of the blue that she was just going to record television, shows, commercials, and all. So for 24/7, 365, for tens of years, all this lady did was record television. Now, we spoke about it on this channel. When she died, her son was supposed to keep it, but he ended up donating it to the museum. Do you know why they hurry up and ran and got that lady tapes when she died? Because her tapes would literally debunk 60 to 70% of the shit we believe in today. I'm talking about off commercials. I'm not even talking about no real history shit. If we were to get in touch with that lady's tapes where she had done doggone video the TV for 20, 30 years, it would debunk over 70% of the shit we thinking today. That's why they hurry up, and when that lady died, they went and snatched up all her shit. Marion Stokes. Thank you, Kiki So Fly. That's her name, Marion Stokes. They hurry up and went snatch that lady shit up when she died, and they always do it to a descendant who don't really know the game. So they caught the son. Hey, you should go ahead on and probably donate this stuff. Or they strong on them, for all I know. Either way, now they donated it to the museum. Girl, bye. That shit ain't donated nowhere. They hurry up and went snatch that shit up and probably try to destroy it. They probably tried to destroy it. I really hope that lady somehow wrote a will and she buried that bitch and was like, hey, copies of all the tapes is on my mama. When I tell you, I hope that lady was smart enough to realize, because if she was smart enough to tape the TV, then I think she kind of knew what it was, right? Hopefully she was smart enough to write a will or write a paper and put it in a bottle or something and send it off somewhere and say, hey, if you ever find this 20, 30, 40, 100 years from now, copies of my tape is at X, Y, and Z. I hope I live to see the day that happened, because I think that that's very important. But yeah, they hurry up and went got her tapes, but they got her tapes because it really debunks a lot of the things that we're being told through Google and what we're being taught. Remember, Black America, everybody is over here because of us. We are the Jews and the jewels that Hitler was talking about. God's precious jewels and his Jews, okay? And Ryan Austin, thank you so much for the super chat. Says the 7 cosplaying nations are all merchants who sell things. Notice they don't create nothing new that's worthy. They invaded us and act the same. Absolutely. Absolutely. And let's be clear. The only other group of people that I can say that are probably creating is the Chinese, but all they're doing is building off of our old technology. We created the internet. We created AI. We created we created all of this shit. But in the last 60 years, we've gotten so far removed from our creative skills and who we are that we blind to it now. And now all Asia has done is taken the stuff that we left and picked up off of it and started putting it out to the world. Elon Musk too. That shit Elon coming out with, come on, man. That's old technology. It's just new to us. That's old. All that shit is old technology. Again, when we realize who we are, listen, the moment we realize who we are, it's lights out for everybody in this world. I need you to listen to me and listen to me good. The very second Black Americans understand and realize who we are, the moment we wake up from this bad dream called the destiny swap, it's over for everybody in this world. And I don't mean that in the way of people gonna start dying. Possibly, but I don't know. I mean, then the whole jig is up. Everything that we once knew and they once knew now goes away. Because now the rightful owners and the rightful creators and people, God's people, takes their place at the throne where they belong. With that being said, that was Educational Friday. We had 2 hours. I'm about to hop up off of here. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening. And again, Educational Friday is just a space for us to learn, unlearn, and relearn, okay? So again, I came up with this segment because I was super, super big in history. I took all the history classes that college had to offer. I lived and died in history and social studies in school, and it was eye-opening for me to become an adult and start to research and stuff and realize 95% of the shit I was taught was a lie. So that's why I came up with Educational Friday, for us together to relearn, unlearn, and relearn the things that we need to know. Now, with that being said, I'm about to hop up off of here, y'all. Make sure y'all take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. I'll be back this weekend sometime or another. And peace.
Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go! It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I want? Blaze up! Come on, blaze up!
It's the beat for me.
Wah 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 wah. For your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we are. For your boy. Also for your boy. Fix it for your boy. Drop it for your lift it up.
What kind of face you got there? That Mandinka face.
Mandinka? What foodstuffs that you talking about? That's African. I ain't no African.
Well, I'm Mandinka. We're proud people.
And I'm American. I was born here. My mammy and my daddy was born here. And my daddy's daddy. And I ain't no African.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here. Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.